everyone. My name's Tim Cross. I'm senior reporter at Video Week, and this is going to be our panel on finding the gold standard in CTV measurement. Obviously, measurement for the whole time I've been reporting in this industry has been a bit of an issue in the CTV world, and I still hear lots of buyers who talk about it being a block to investment. But at the same time, we are making progress on measurement, and we've got three panelists here who each in their own ways helping push through that progress. But at the same time, obviously, you know, we've talked so much about the effect of the pandemic in increasing consumption of CTV, and that in its way also increases the urgency of tackling this issue, because obviously, you know, as more ad dollars flow that way, there's more expectation that measurement is able to accommodate that. So we'll crack right into the discussion, but to start, I'll ask each of my panelists to introduce themselves. Lindsay, can we start with you?
Absolutely. Very, very nice to see everyone. Thank you. Thank you for having us. I'm Lindsay Albertan. I am part of the Insights and Measurement organization at NBC Universal. And part of my remit there is really helping to centralize measurement efforts in support of our ad sales organization across Peacock, our new streaming service that launched initially in April of 2020, and also in helping to bridge the measurement gap, if you will, and pursue measurement advancement with within global partnerships and with Sky Media. So very happy to be here and look forward to today's conversation.
Fabulous. Bav, on to you.
Hi, so I'm Bav. I'm Chief Market Analyst at Omnicom Media Group UK. It's my job to look at macro trends in the economy and regulation and indeed measurement and the effect that has on our businesses and our client businesses. I also sit on the BARB board in the UK, the TV measurement JIC, and I'm also heavily involved in Project Origin, which is the ISBAR implementation of the wider WFA approach to cross-media measurement.
Fabulous. Bob, on to you.
Yeah, I'm Bob Ives. I'm Chief Strategy Officer of TV Squared. We're a measurement company. We build an ETL process that ingests, data from disparate sources, harmonizes that, and makes it available to both the buy side and the sell side to measure both audiences and classic media metrics like reach and frequency, and links to attribution.
Fabulous. So I think a good question to start on, just to kind of frame the whole conversation, is when we're talking about CTV measurement, does that look more like traditional TV measurement or more like digital video? Because I guess you can look at it both ways. You can say CTV is just a different form of TV as we've always known it, and it should be measured the same way. Or you can say, we have capabilities which can go way beyond that, so we might as well use them. Bob, how about we start with you, as you've helped build a product from the ground up? How have you guys thought about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the legacy TV measurement products are showing their age. One, I think two, that CTV outputs data that looks more like digital. So I think and three, I think that, more and more viewing is moving to CTV. So I think you need to want to skate to where the puck is going. And I think that measurement is going to look more like digital than it does like legacy TV measurement.
Just chime in, I think from our perspective, that there's actually quite great value that comes from kind of TV endemic measurement and digital endemic measurement. And as we pursue this, it really is about kind of blending the strengths of both, right? CTV is a very natural evolution, extension, of course, of what was sort of traditional TV viewing. However, while the measurement truly, had begun from a place of digital, right, with high precision, and those are things that we want to certainly preserve as CTV measurement evolves. Things that are inherent in our established television measurement, like representation, parity, and consistency across various players and publishers in the space is paramount. So as we do advance that, I would actually argue that I think the ideal state is actually a blend of both worlds, maintaining the precision and accuracy and of that digital measurement, but ensuring that gold standard of quality from television measurement is also applied in the digital space.
Yeah, I'd echo what Lindsay said. I think if you look at CTV at the moment, it's very much follows digital video in terms of impression level reporting. But in the UK, certainly, if you look at the direction of travel with the likes of Samsung and the likes of YouTube, moving more towards ascribing demos to those impressions, it becomes to look a lot more like TV. But not to kind of sit on the fence too much, but echo what Bob said, what's happening the other way is the convergence, and I guess traditional TV companies and the measurement traditional TV is becoming much more outcomes focused and moving to broaden from demographics much more towards kind of digital video metrics. So I think both CTV sits more towards that digital video side at the moment, but I think both areas, as Lynn said, are converging. I think that kind of leads on, I'm sure, to what we'll talk about further. But I think that does kind of echo client sentiment and where advertisers want what they want to learn about where CTV sits on the plans.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Like you say there, I suppose one of the big drivers of this will be what brands actually want to be able to measure. So perhaps we'll start with you on this one. What do you think are the key fundamentals that the brands do want to be able to measure when they're running CTV campaigns?
Yeah, so I think essentially a brand, like all elements of their media campaign, they want to know how any particular component sits and fits within their wider video and their wider media plan. So that's, again, that seems to fit in two elements now when it comes to video. One is what is the incremental reach and frequency of CTV on the broader video strategy. And the second one is kind of like the so what, i.e. what are the outcomes that buying that audience delivers to me. And so much like I said a moment ago, I think brands want that answer, and I think companies are moving kind of to within the space to answer that question. So Barb's measurement of other video services will help to solve that incremental reach argument in the middle of this year. And Project Origin should hopefully allow us a helicopter view of an entire campaign and the reach and frequency, and indeed lead to the outcomes that come out of that.
I was going to say, that's exactly right. I think every campaign starts with two fundamental questions. Who do I want to reach and what do I want to accomplish? And I think that the components of that and how advertisers decide to invest their money is the question of the day right now. And I think if you go back a year ago, I think any money that was being spent on CTV and OTT was really experimental, but given that's where the eyeballs are going, I think people are leaning into it. And I don't feel, to Lindsay's point, I think that the only difference between legacy TV measurement right now is and what we're getting from the digital-like sources with respect to viewing video is person's level data from traditional legacy TV measurements versus household level data, what you get from a set-top box. And I think that needs to be solved at some point. But right now, I would lean more into the precision and timeliness of data that we're getting from some of these digital-like components than I would to the legacy measurement.
I think what I'd add on to that is a bit about just how all-encompassing also a measurement solution can be as we work with our advertising partners. Our North Star very much is in making sure that our clients can understand the impact of their spend on their measurement goals, knowing also that no two clients are necessarily prioritizing the same measure of effect, right? We may have a direct-to-consumer brand that is focused originally on performance metrics and may move kind of upwards in the funnel actually as they're able to grow scale and awareness of their brand. We may have a retail company who is looking to move a specific product off of their shelves and is aspiring obviously for their measurement partners and those that they're investing with to be able to prove this. And another company within even that same competitive set is actually looking to reinforce affinity. So what's really important, we believe, is that a measurement solution can encompass all of those needs and make sure that we're having that conversation that is evolving as an individual company's goals evolve as well. And so our focus is very much on full funnel and measuring impressions to impact and having that conversation with clients really at every step of where they are and ensuring that there is that proper measurement framework, of course, for CTV, but really across all platforms that can have that dialogue and that two-way dialogue around performance.
I agree. No, it's not one size fits all. And not all advertising on CTV is performance advertising. So exactly. I think you're absolutely right. The only thing I would add to that, and I'm sorry, I'm stealing the microphone here, but I think that the challenges for brands is that when yes, audiences are fragmented across time, channel, and platform, trying to put them back together is the biggest challenge. And I think in an environment where I think it's harder for agencies to do that than it is for suppliers of the data. I think that's going to be the biggest challenge for advertisers. How do we re-aggregate or refrag, whatever the right terminology is, those audiences that are now, you know, spread across time, platform, and channel?
Yeah, I'd agree. I mean, I should have, when I said incremental reach and frequency, I should have been very clear that it's deduplicated kind of reach and frequency across all those platforms. And it's really crucial that we get effectively a comparable evaluation of media to an industry agreed methodology across the whole video ecosystem.
Yeah, I want to pick up a bit on, you know, what's actually possible among some of those things we mentioned there. So I guess starting there, deduplicated reach, I think that's one of the kind of the basic things that came out from Project Origin, kind of asking around, you know, what the fundamental things you want from cross-screen measurement. How possible is it nowadays to know, you know, which individual people have seen which ads or which shows, you know, just on one screen or across multiple screens or whatever? How possible is that at the moment?
From a UK perspective, I mean, it all depends on how much the various kind of stakeholders lean in, really, I guess. So again, Project Origin has made good progress, particularly amongst the digital platforms. So we've got Google and we've got Facebook kind of, and Snap and Twitter, and all opening up their ecosystems to help to come to that deduplicated cross-reach and frequency, and then ongoing dialogue with the broadcasters. And I think all of the UK broadcasters, again, using C-Flight as a platform, will now enable kind of the deduplicated reach and frequency across broadcast TV as well. As soon as we can marry those two together, which are ongoing kind of positive conversations, I think we'll be in quite a good place in the UK. As an interim solution, I guess agencies like ourselves have in effect worked closely with suppliers to ingest all of those individual data feeds and curves into our own systems. But the sooner we get to an agreed industry approach, then the better.
But we're already doing that at scale, both in the US and in the UK. I mean, if you go back to our history, I mean, we basically set up a framework to ingest the best possible data source available at the time. You know, right-hand side variables and left-hand side variables, where the right-hand side variables were the marketing activities and the left-hand side variables were the outcomes. It was a digital outcome and, you know, and ad occurrence data. An ad ran in this country at this time and on this station. As we expanded this set of data sources, you know, I think we're working with 60 or 70 digital ad servers, including the OTT CTV providers. So we're getting IP addresses that then we can match deterministically to outcome data. And I think, you know, it's happening. I think it's, you know, there's things that need to be challenged or solved for, like, you know, identity resolution, and we're looking to work with people like Blackgraph, that's also NBC sibling, I don't know what you want to call it, our partner. And I think it's starting to happen, and it's starting to happen at scale. I think that that level of data doesn't exist everywhere. So you kind of have this, you know, use the best data source available in the market at the time, and make sure that you have a platform to be able to expand when other data sources become available. What about,
sorry, go on, Lindsay.
Oh, no, I mean, I was just going to echo, it feels like we are moving towards being able to, as an industry, really be able to provide holistic cross-platform reach and frequency, but there's a significant amount of work to go, right? I think, again, if you sort of look even in different territories around the world, right? UK has obviously made great strides, as Bob was just speaking through. In the US, again, there is quite a bit of momentum, and you see various publishers who may be able to solve this for themselves, because digital is obviously one piece, right? And how do you also then bring in, you know, the framework of linear, which does generate significant, not only exposure and reach for clients, but impact, right? And how do you sort of tie these things together? And based on the metrics that you're looking at, ultimately the ability to link identity and then again, sort of correlate that with outcomes, there's still quite a bit of work to go. However, it does feel like we're starting to really be on the right track, and you see some true progress being made. But just to underscore, there still is so much more work for us to do in that space. Speaking from a publisher standpoint, right, we truly can kind of control our are component of that ecosystem, but feel sort of actively that we go further together, and think that there's great just opportunity for just collaboration and industry advancement in that space.
I want to pick up on outcomes measurement as well, which has been mentioned quite a lot already. I guess maybe the central question for me here is how important is it that broadcasters nail this? One thing that I hear a bit is about the potential of, say, an Amazon, obviously not running ads at the moment, but on Prime Video, but the potential for a company like that to link video ads, run there to direct sales through their platform, that being quite a formidable proposition. But then, you can also talk about, TV still being TV and still having its own strength. So the question for me is, how important is it that through CTV, broadcasters are able to, measure outcomes really efficiently like that?
I don't know if you saw today's news that Walmart just bought an ad serving technology called Thunder, which is like focused right at that. Like they recognize, and it's going to be a closed system. I don't know if you read the details of it. They're saying Thunder Industry had a bunch of customers that they're gonna get rid of, and they're just going to focus this technology on Walmart's closed system of advertising and transactional data. I mean, to Lindsay's point earlier, not one size doesn't fit everybody. Like every time I see an ad, I don't run out the store and go buy the product, or out the door and go buy the product. I think that you need to be able to have a portfolio of measurement products that meet the advertiser where they are. Again, what do I, who do I want to reach and what do I want to achieve? Sometimes it's reach, sometimes it's, message association, sometimes it's transaction. So I feel like you need that. I think outcomes, however you define it, just like, it needs to be able to provide a portfolio of metrics that make sure that they get the metrics that they need.
Yeah, absolutely agree. At the end of the day, marketers don't buy ratings, they buy results. And so we say this when we talk about linear television, but it rings true truly across all buys, CTV included. Marketers want to understand the impact of their spend against those business goals. So at NBCU, we are focused on, again, this measurement continuum I mentioned that goes from, unifying impressions to measuring also unified impact. So two things I'll also just reference and speak about. C-Flight has come up. It is our cross-screen currency here in the US at NBC Universal to enable this seamless campaign delivery across all screens to make sure that advertisers are able to meet consumers where they are. But then also from an outcome standpoint, we have made significant investment also in scaling our attribution capabilities across categories to prove out campaign level effectiveness and delivery for partners. But also this past year, we did roll out a new product to the marketplace, which is Total Investment Impact, or TII as we call it, which is a proprietary solution to measure the impact of an advertiser's overall investment across NBCU, going beyond just short-term campaign and bringing in different industry factors to also go into how we model our ability to drive returns for our partners. So echoing what Bob said, it truly is this, suite of solutions that are required to really have that conversation and consultative discussion with our clients across the full marketing funnel.
I thought you said TMI. I thought that's a bad name for a product.
Oh no, TII. Yeah, no, not enough information.
That would be interested in your take on that, because I guess, one counter example maybe to the need for, that sort of fantastic outcome measurement we'd have seen at the weekend with the Super Bowl, where, obviously brands are happy to pay around $5.5 million or whatever it is for 30 seconds in a way that they're quite happy to splash out. And, without that ability to directly measure sales or anything like that from it. And, it's very possible that we move to a world fairly soon where a lot of the viewing for an event like the Super Bowl might be on CTV products. So that's kind of like, I guess, a bit of a counter example there, maybe. From a buyer's perspective, do you think there's still that just allure of TV and a willingness to, I guess, trust it to an extent that TV has its own kind of brand impact and that it doesn't always need to be hyper measurable in terms of outcomes?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, again, I think as both Lindsay and Bob have said, there's different variances of outcomes, and TV's greatest outcome in its original outcome was building fast reach kind of in a couple of spots. And when you used to go back to the days when Sunday newspapers always used to advertise heavily on a Friday just to shift the Sunday paper, or the National Lottery in the UK, again, on a rollover, you'd buy a load of TV in order to maximise reach that message. And more recently, it's been the mainstay of all government advertising to get COVID messaging out to as many people as quickly as possible. So TV will always play that role because it will always be the place where you get that mass reach quickly. But it'll be interesting to see how they evolve, and we're anticipating all of the major kind of traditional TV or established TV broadcasters in the UK to tap into this move to e-commerce. Now, obviously, physical retail's been shut all over the world, really, over the course of the past year. So all of our clients now have quite strong e-commerce strategies, and established TV providers we expect to come out with ways to make kind of shoppable advertising more relevant that goes beyond a QR code in order to transact. So it'll be really interesting to see from an agency point of view what comes out in that space.
Yeah. I think 2021 is going to be fascinating. I mean, I think, sorry to interrupt, Tim, but I think you're absolutely right. There's always going to be a need for tentpole events like the Super Bowl, and people are going to want to be associated with it. So that's going to continue to happen. I think the idea of having an upfront where you're laying down a year, 12 months worth of advertising for the next year, not in having the uncertainty in the economy that we have today, and probably through 2021, people are going to probably hold back in the upfronts and want the flexibility. And then that's why I think things like measurement are going to be so critical, because they're going to want to know, am I reaching an audience? Do I need to move my money around and take it off of TV and put it into CTV? Is it driving what I want, whether it's e-commerce or whether it's awareness? And I think that as the time frame of making decisions about advertising gets shrunk, and there's more pressure on advertisers to do more with less, or just with less, that the idea of having measurement, however you define it, is going to be more and more important.
One thing
I want to just comment, Tim, if we can, just right before we move on one piece, which I think is important. And you mentioned the sort of the Super Bowl, but I do think acknowledging just the long-term impact, right, that advertising on a bigger screen is known to have is important. And even in the conversation around advancing CTV measurement, right, we do have the ability to be more precise in how we measure outcomes measurement, but that doesn't mean we only should be looking at that short-term value that's driven, right, which we know tends to be a cornerstone to how digital investments are measured today. What's the immediate performance that we see? So I think that's another piece that we're all really, as an industry, going to sort of need to sort through, is how do we also make sure that through this precise measurement, we don't only focus on what's happening in a short-term moment, but that we are able to also measure the long tail effect of brand building, like through investment in the Super Bowl and other major tentpoles on television, because to your point, consumers are engaging in that content the same way, and the advertising can then have a similar effect. It's just in a different medium, and we need to make sure that the measurement can also take into account both the short and the long-term benefits that's going to provide.
I'm gonna riff on two things on that comment. Do you remember back in the 90s when everybody focused on click-through rates?
Right.
Back when the digital was called new media, now it's just called media. I think we're in that same kind of cycle, that we're focused on these short-term instant impact things and we're calling it, CTV, OTV. At some point, and I don't know when, it's just going to be called media, and it's going to be measured using the same set of metrics we measure all types of media. So I think Lindsay's absolutely right. It doesn't fit into one bucket, just like the internet didn't, even though we tried to back in the day.
I've got to move us on to some of the final questions.
It's 2 hours, right? I thought we had 2 hours.
Sadly, not as much as we could fill 2 hours. So a couple of things I just want to ask on, looking more at kind of the nature of the solutions rather than the specific things they measure. So one thing that comes up quite a lot is the importance of independence. I think some buyers might be a bit disillusioned perhaps from what they've seen in other digital platforms that I won't name about questions of marking their own homework and metrics that have proven to be a bit dodgy a bit further down the line. So I guess, Lindsay, with a product like C-Flight, where it's a broadcaster-led thing, how do you kind of address those concerns? Sure.
Well, I guess I should acknowledge that even though C-Flight did start with us here at NBC Universal, it's the foundation of CFlight is actually building up from established accredited measurement. And that's true both for how we have built CFlight, again, here in the US, starting with NBC Universal, and also how Sky UK has brought CFlight to its marketplace, which is incorporating the accredited third-party measurement in all of the places where we really can transact on that today, and then trying to build up from that to ensure that we have a greater view of the ecosystem. So again, from a principal standpoint, we very much support, even through a product like CFlight, the established currency that exists in any local market, and then are working to evolve that. And I think I'll also speak to the fact that when we launched CFlight here in the US in 2018, I believe it was, we had actually a number of sessions with anyone who will listen, but both with our peers in the broadcast industry, to trade organizations, to measurement firms, and with clients to walk through every component of how CFlight worked. And we believe Sky has really done the same. And that's a key piece. We know how important it is for advertisers to be able to meet consumers where they are and ensure that their campaign delivery is agile based on where consumers are choosing to watch their content, but we are building up from what that accredited third-party measurement is, because it is so important to ensure that there is that third-party verification and no grading your own homework that goes into it. Reality is there are some white spaces in what third-party measurement can do today. So that's what CFlight really does help us solve for, is how do we bring those components together?
Bev, just quickly from you.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. So Sky have been very, I don't think, it's not so much about independence because the platforms will always own the data because it's their data. It's more just about transparency, and Sky have been brilliant at letting us look under the hood, explaining methodologies, bringing in RSMB in the UK as a third party kind of verification, and RSMB verified BARB data. So it's using kind of trusted partners. And then not just Sky, ITV as well, kind of with Planet V and all broadcasters and platforms, YouTube again, are being much more open. And I guess, again, with Project Origin, the spirit is openness and platforms opening up their data to be third-party verified.
Yeah, and just quickly to wrap up, I guess another concern is that, I mean, we've got 3 different approaches to CTV measurement represented here, and by no means the only ones. Is there a risk we end up with a system where we've kind of got lots of different solutions which are measuring slightly different things using slightly different metrics? And how can we avoid that? Is it a case of just making sure we're aligned around the same standards and kind of working with these national and global bodies to ensure we're sort of adhering to those same things? Or are buyers going to want to see, BARB equivalent for CTV or a BARB led thing for CTV?
Yeah, I guess oh, sorry, go on, Bob.
No, go ahead.
So I guess from the buy side and from an agency side, I think you're right. At the moment, we've got like a jigsaw, but I've got a 2-year-old boy, and all of his jigsaws are mixed up. So we've got this kind of jigsaw, but all the puzzles are from kind of different jigsaw sets, and you're trying to match them up at the moment, and you can't. So as you said, I think the lack of standards and an agreed standard is all we're after. We're going to have differing data sets, but as long as you can have an industry agreed approach to bring those different data sets together to define standards, and even if it's just defining standards and then you can redefine based on your client, to talk a common currency with them, then that's fine. But it's just getting to that baseline kind of agreement of what the standards are, what the benchmarks are, and industry level for all these different types of video, and then being in a position where everyone's open enough to lean in and give access to that data to have a look at it as one common approach.
I agree. It's a team sport. We need to figure out how to do this together. And I'll use a digital analogy too. I mean, online advertising didn't take off until they agreed to the banner size. I mean, that was what opened digital advertising to take off. So I feel that, our approach is, it's not our way or the highway. It's like, how do we work together to provide, to ingest, currency grade data, process it correctly, be transparent about what we're doing and why we're doing it. And the marketplace will help define that. And I think that's the only way forward.
Lindsay, are you seeing that sort of level of cooperation required sort of happening within the market at the moment?
I echo what Bob just mentioned. I think it's paramount that we do approach this as a team sport, and in terms of time and resource and commitment to the discomfort that comes from evolving the way we may individually measure today is just absolutely critical to move forward and come up with a solution that will be as powerful as possible and as insightful as possible for our clients, for sure. I think that we are in a position kind of similar to what you mentioned, Tim, in the US today, where there are different publishers who have slightly different versions of the same type of measurement. And we hear that's problematic. And so now very much is the time to really lean into the momentum that I think that we all are feeling to try to establish what those standards are and bring together a measurement across platforms in a way that will be uniform for understanding the ecosystem at large.
Can I just say one thing real quickly? I mean, to some extent, for the last 5 years, TV's been flat to down, right? And it's been flat to down because this narrative of better data, better targeting, better measurement from digital has kind of taken it to us. And I think this is our opportunity to recognize that we have the data, we have the targeting, we have the measurement now, but we need to get our act together and do it as an industry rather than as one-offs.
Absolutely, right. And building on that, consumers are evolving where they're watching video, and the fragmentation of measurement does absolutely, I think, support what Bob just said, that linear viewing has changed. It's evolved. It's through a new digitally served stream, right? Through and a different mechanism for serving ads through DAI. So how do we bring that together to also ensure that our clients understand that full picture, right? That it may not be one platform is better or worse than the other, but just that consumers are so dynamic in the way that they're making decisions, and we need to put all the pieces together so they understand what some of those underlying drivers are.
Certainly, at least some of the stuff I've been hearing, we're talking to people like Project Origin, is that we are seeing decent amounts of cooperation and people understanding the need to pull in the same direction. So I'm, for my part, hopeful that we'll see meaningful progress. I'm afraid that's all we've got time for, but I think that was really interesting to hear about a bit more about each of these different approaches to CTV measurement. And I think there is legitimate hope, as I say, that we are seeing good measurable progress in improving CTV measurement. So thank you to each of my panelists for your time.
Thanks, Tim.
Thank you very much.
Go.
Bye.